Okay, Ben, we're live now and recording. Can you hear me, Ben?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're live. Okay.
Okay. Well,
maybe wait one more minute because it's not 8 o'clock yet.
Yeah, I was just going to say good morning, everyone. We've had about 150 registrations so far, so we'll just wait for a few last stragglers to log in and wait for the clock to tick over to 8 o'clock, and then we'll get moving. All right, with that, I think we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. If we've got any late stragglers or registrations coming on board, then we'll just deal with them as they come through. My name is Ben Hughes. I'm the local industry advisor for SecureEnergy. And just as a bit of housekeeping, this is a SecureEnergy supply chain opportunity briefing. It's dated August 2021. And the briefing relates to subcontract opportunities on the EnergyConnect project. This is one of 3 sessions that will be running over the next 40 hours across 3 different time slots, but each session is identical and you only need to come to one of them. EnergyConnect is a TransGrid project with a registered Australian industry participation plan, and this briefing is part of the SecureEnergy commitment to full, fair and reasonable opportunity for supply chain participation. The session is being recorded and will be distributed out for circulation via our partners, along with other project information and websites later, early in next week. The information will come from our partners as well, and 2 of them that you'll meet today. Please could I ask all participants to be muted? If you want to ask a question, please do that through the Q&A chat room. Those questions are going to be collated and moderated during the meeting, and we've left space at the end of the presentation to answer them. Please note though, this is a supplier information session for Australian local and Indigenous suppliers, and we will only be answering questions on industry participation. Any questions relating to environment, approvals, broader community matters, construction matters, we won't be able to respond to those questions, but all matters relating to industry we can, and any matters relating to employment and people seeking jobs, please go to the SecureEnergy website, and in future events the human resources team will be able to give more information about employment. Finally, if you've never subcontracted to a major project before, then we hope that there's a lot of information that you'll take away. But one point is very close to our culture is about safety, and it is industry practice to discuss and implement safety practices ahead of any meetings. So we've got an hour and a half listed for today. That is a long time to be at your desk, notwithstanding everyone's at their desk quite a lot at the moment with COVID restrictions. So please don't get lost in the headsets. Please don't stand up quickly. Be aware of your surroundings when you do. But if you've got a stand-up desk or the opportunity to exercise during this briefing, please feel free to do that. Now, I'm just going to the next slide. So I'd like to kick off and deliver an acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Aboriginal land today, wherever we are meeting. I would like to recognise the strengths, resilience and capacity of traditional owners, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship to the land, which continues to be important to Aboriginal people today. Again, along with safety, Indigenous participation is a very important part of our culture as a major project, and our client has established a specific target for us around Indigenous participation. And if you are a majority-owned Indigenous business, we would ask you to identify yourself as you come through the registration process that we'll discuss later today. In terms of the agenda, like I said at the very beginning, my name is Ben Hughes and I'm the local industry advisor for the project. I've been with the project since February 2020, and this was because local and Indigenous participation was an important part of our client TransGrid's employers' requirements. I'm also joined today by Adrian Whiting, who's the local industry participation manager, Mark Cunningham, who's the Indigenous Participation Manager, Barvin Desai is the local industry participation officer, and Carmen Marshall, who will be helping with the Q&A responses, is the engagement manager. I'd also just like to introduce Jeff Reardon from ICN New South Wales. They'll be an important partner through this journey that we've undertaken. We've been working with Jeff since May 2020, and we'll be hearing from him during this session as well. On the left-hand side, just to go through the agenda, it's really broken down into 4 parts. So slides 1 to 5 is really about the project and will take about 15 to 20 minutes. Number 6 there is an ICN gateway presentation, take about 10 to 15 minutes, and then sections 7 to 12, sections 7 to 11 are really around the pre-qualification process and how to pre-qualify with a schedule left for questions at the end. On the right-hand side, key collaboration is very key to delivering the broader economic benefits, and listed on that right-hand side column, you can see some of the partners that we've been working with over this past year. This event was originally scheduled to be an actual roadshow where we were able to do some engagement on the ground, and we'd like to thank those partners on the right hand side for their assistance in the setup, but also their participation today. It should be noted that the National Indigenous Australians Agency have also been a partner of ours in this process, but we are unable to list their logo on the slide. But importantly, we'd like to thank the Business New South Wales, who represents all the Chambers of Commerce, Mildura Regional Development, and in a second we're about to hear from one of our key partners, Regional Development Australia Murray, and we'd like to thank everyone collectively, those 5 groups, for their input and assistance as we've gone through this project. But without further ado, we'll actually make our first switch now, and hopefully the technology is working well and we'll be able to hear from Edwina Hayes, who could just offer a bit of a welcome and some context about Regional Development Australia Murray and Riverina. Over to you, Edwina.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks to SecureEnergy for the opportunity to introduce ourselves today. I'm Edwina Hayes. I'm the CEO of Regional Development Australia Murray, and I'm here today also representing Rachel Whiting, who is on the call from RDA Riverina. We're working together to around the EnergyConnect project. Now, I'd just like to give a heads up to everyone that I will be giving out our phone numbers at the end. So if you'd like to get a pen and paper ready, or however you take numbers, in about 60 seconds, I'll be giving you Rachel's and my phone number. So RDAs are not-for-profit, non-government organisations who work to deliver economic development in 53 regions all around Australia. We have voluntary boards with local people who are passionate about our region, and chairs who are appointed by Minister Nola Marino. Minister Marino has set an energetic tone and focused RDAs on developing local procurement opportunities, jobs and investment. Rachel and I at RDA Murray and RDA Riverina have great track records bringing people together to facilitate community, business and industry development to bring more investment into the region from the Snowies to the South Australian border. We each have specific workforce and local procurement initiatives, and we'll be pleased to discuss your needs and ideas to make the most of this project in our region. EnergyConnect is a nationally significant project with hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in infrastructure in our region, which will enable the growing use of the renewable energy sector in our region across Australia. We are committed to you to ensure our region benefits as much as possible from this investment. So please feel free to contact Rachel on 0429 444 213 at Regional Development Australia Riverina, or Edwina, myself, at RDA Murray on 0427 267 753. You can find us under social media under our names, the full title, Regional Development Australia, Murray or Riverina. And also we have email lists and things so you don't miss out on any Australian government news, grants, funding opportunities, that sort of thing into the future. So thank you very much, Ben. I'm looking forward to understanding more about your connection with our business members and industry together, and look forward to an informative morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwina. Thank you very much for your time this morning. And just to emphasise, we'll be distributing video and information out from this. We'll be doing that through Edwina and Rachel, through the RDAs, through the Mildura Regional Development Business New South Wales and ICN, and you'll be able to pick up contact details and more information about them when we do that next week. Just as a reminder, as we're going through, just anyone who's a late joiner, please just ensure your microphone is on mute as we go through this session. Right. Slide number 4 is a safe harbour slide. It's an important slide because we're obviously all experiencing incredibly volatile business conditions at the moment. We'll remind you that this briefing is recorded, so you can go back and review the detail of this slide if you require. But basically, this slide says the information that we present today is subject to change. Any investment of time and resources that you make in pursuing that work with SecureEnergy is a matter for your business, and you should consider a range of factors before you go on a supplier process. You should only rely on this information as being current at the time of the presentation, and that date is on August 2021. There will be future updates, and if you've got any questions around any of these requirements, you can get contact information off the website in our supplier information guide. So what is EnergyConnect? Well, TransGrid is the client, and they're an electricity transmission operator in New South Wales. And also they're partnering with ElectroNet, which is the electricity distributor in South Australia. And they're currently progressing planning approvals and associated activities for the construction and operation of a new electrical interconnector and network support options between New South Wales and South Australia. The interconnector is aimed at reducing the cost of providing secure and reliable electricity transmission between New South Wales and South Australia in the near term, and while facilitating the longer term transition of the energy sector across the national electricity market to low emission energy sources. The current preferred option involves constructing a high voltage electricity interconnector of approximately 700 kilometres between the power grids of South Australia, starting at Robertstown, and New South Wales, finishing in Wagga Wagga, known collectively as EnergyConnect. EnergyConnect has been identified as a priority transmission project in the New South Wales Transmission Infrastructure Strategy, linking the South Australian and New South Wales energy markets and transporting energy from the Southwest Energy Zone to major demand centres. That is a map of the actual project itself, highlighting the major areas. The work that we're talking about today for SecureEnergy is on the New South Wales and in the New South Wales and Victorian sections. We've split those sections down into separable portions, and we start off on the westerly side around Mildura, Baronga and Redcliffs, as you can see there, and then the program works. Well, there's multiple activities across the lines of works, but the program works from the west towards Wagga Wagga in the east. As you can see from the project, we're not a large hole in the ground. We're multiple work fronts across a lineal project. And so when we're looking for suppliers, we're looking for local suppliers within that region, or who can understand the logistics requirements of working in that region, or have the ability to deliver reliable services across a very complex, elongated work front. So who is SecureEnergy joint venture? Well, it's a joint venture between Clough and Elecnor, two global leaders with local knowledge in delivering procurement and construction projects for the power infrastructure industry. And SecureEnergy, on behalf of TransGrid, will build EnergyConnect, the 700-kilometre overhead electricity transmission line, and one of the nation's largest energy infrastructure projects. Elecnor is a global leader in high voltage transmission and substation EPC, with nearly 60 years of continuous growth and presence in more than 50 countries. And Elecnor's performance has become a benchmark in the infrastructure, renewable energy and technology sectors. Since 2014, Elecnor has proven a commitment to Australia, completing multiple projects across the country. Clough is an engineering and construction company founded in Australia in 1919. The company successfully delivers challenging, high-performing assets for the energy, infrastructure and resources industries, underpinned by a dedication to problem solving and getting the job done safely and efficiently. Providing EPC services, the Clough team delivers zero harm projects and has worked on some of the world's largest and most technically and logistically challenging projects. And there's our website there. You can go along and find more information about us. If you've never dealt with a major project before...
Sorry, Ben, can I just interrupt? The webpage isn't live yet. It goes live by close of business today. So if you just wait a day, it'll be up and running. Sorry, Ben.
Thank you, Tom. If you've never worked with a major project before, I think one easy way to think of SecureEnergy joint venture is in the context of if you've ever actually undertaken built your own home or renovated your own house. We're very much the builder. So although we've got a different size budget, nonetheless, it's still the same activity that we're undertaking. So in this sense, if you were renovating your property, think of TransGrid as the homeowner. They've had architects who's come in to design the house. SecureEnergy, we were interested in building the house, and we submitted a tender and awarded the contract to actually build the project itself. So when you see SecureEnergy on the ground, or you see the SecureEnergy logo, then please remember, just like the builder who's been renovating your house or building a house, our team will be able to answer questions about the building process and the project itself, but we won't necessarily be able to answer all the questions on behalf of the architect and the owner. And our objective really is to be polite and courteous neighbour, and ensure that we deliver the project for our clients safely, on schedule, and to a high level of quality, with, of course, a high level of local and Indigenous participation as well. So what are the opportunities? Well, SecureEnergy has had an active role in the industry development. We've done a lot of, this is a new industry in many terms for Australia, and Australia doesn't actually manufacture a lot of the large scale equipment in the electrode technology market. But we've already spent the last year working with key stakeholders and to see where both the project and the industry can be developed. We'd like to acknowledge the Australian Steel Institute and New South Wales Treasury for their support in helping us identify industry capability. And we've also undertaken site tours of local industrial facilities throughout Albury and Wagga Wagga. And we remain committed to sharing that knowledge about this exciting new industry, and unbundling packages is an important part of that. We're looking to unbundle packages specifically around regional manufacturing, some of their componentry, and that work is ongoing with the procurement, construction and substation teams. The packages listed up in front of you there are very much some of the packages that are shortly going to be coming to market, and we'll have some more details of those in a moment. But there's obviously earth moving, fencing works, there's civil construction, camp services, haulage and cartage, and we've got open EOIs at the moment on the ICN for that. But also with the nature of our project, there's also going to be opportunities around logistics and inventory management, substation, and then later on into next year, assembly and mechanical installation as well. Again, I would note that the nature of this work, and more specifically the high safety requirements that are required to deliver a project of this nature, means that we will be requiring a high level of safety and reliability from all of our supply chain. So in terms of the look ahead for procurement, the summary, if you look on the left-hand side there, we've given you a very brief summary of what we've done so far, basically from February 20 up until the point now. We've ensured that we've aligned ourselves with our Australian industry participation requirements. We've done initial market intelligence gathering, so we've completed 2 rounds of intelligence gathering in partnership with ICN, and we've also established our ICN Gateway database. And we've also onboarded a local industry participation of 2, a team of 2, and also an Indigenous participation manager as well. Moving forward now into August, we're obviously doing this roadshow. Again, apologies, we couldn't come and meet a lot of you on the ground. It has to be the digital platform. And we'll be starting, well, we have got live ICN Gateway packages at the moment, and we're going to be starting to release a lot more of those through September, and undertaking a supplier feedback and pre-qualification process through September and through to October 21. Around about November, we're going to have more packages coming into the market, primarily for those larger civil and construction packages, and that will ultimately see us out to the end of the year. Then moving into 2022, obviously we start off the year with a significant period of civils market investigation and also procurement. And as those packages go into tender and procurement, we as local industry and Indigenous industry participation look to turn our heads around February to sounding out the market for mechanical assembly opportunities, and then through into April 2022 for mechanical installation opportunities as well. That, from a procurement point of view, will be the activity peaks marked in orange on those 2 slides, and with the main procurement activity actually closing out to around August 2022. We've got some packages that are going to be coming out to market as of next week as part of our broader communication of this video and also partnership that we explained earlier. And you can expect to see packages including things such as igloos, cattle grids, construction consumables, the supply and delivery of fuel, PPE requirements, radio and communication requirements, and also some of the industrial waste and also piling requirements as well. But the one place to make sure that you keep abreast of all that information is obviously with ICN. And at that point, I'm going to be handing over very shortly to Jeff Reardon from our ICN. We'd like to thank Jeff. He's been an integral part of our approach since May last year. We've done a lot of work with him, and he's doing a fantastic job for us on the ground. He'll talk to you about how to use the ICN and how to register. I would say before do that, you don't have to pay to register for SecureEnergy opportunities. There is a free option with ICN, and we provide all of our opportunities for free on the system. There have been packages open. There are packages going to be open in the future. And if none of the packages relate to you right now, then there's always the generic EOI that's constantly open, and you can register your information in there, and we'll be able to get to you. So without further ado, I might hand over Jeff at this point.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for the introduction. Pretty exciting to be part of this. And Ben, I wonder if you might flick across to my slide presentation.
Yes.
Thank you. A couple of things I'll be talking about today, just briefly on how to register on the ICN Gateway or where to register. We won't be running through the specific detail, but my contact details you'll see at the end of this presentation. If you need to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. My email address is there. If you flick me an email and you need a guide, I can flick you through a guide on how to set up your ICN Gateway profile. We're going to talk about the process of submitting expressions of interest through the ICN and specifically for the project. And we're going to address something fairly new. Project is committed to helping development of prospective suppliers to the project. Hang on, we're going a little, if we wouldn't mind going back a step there, Ben, if you wouldn't mind.
Apologies.
Thank you. Good on you. So a little bit about ICN for people who aren't aware of us. Essentially, we're a matchmaking style of business. What our role is to improve the lot of small to medium enterprises and to help with employment across the regions. We do that by working very closely with project owners. We're funded by the and our role is essentially to make a connection for you to the project owner that you're given the opportunity to at least show your wares. Next slide, Ben. Ben, next one.
Yep, sorry, is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one. So what do we do? So for buyers, so for the likes of the SecureEnergy joint venture, we assist them to identify local businesses, Indigenous businesses, and social enterprises. We do that either via the ICN gateway, where we communicate the opportunities. We do in the back end supply chain mapping, so we'll help them identify what businesses exist across what regions that have the capacity to supply. And we'll do events such as these, the supplier briefings, to help connect everybody in the loop and make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on. From suppliers, we endeavour to inform you in relation to the projects and how to set yourselves up and position yourself to supply for those projects. We're going to go into a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. We do it by helping you make sure that your company profiles are set up, you're registered on the gateway, and that your profiles are optimized to really articulate, and this is a really important part, to really articulate what your business capabilities are. I guess you've got to think about it as you're going to get one chance sometimes to promote yourself to a prospective purchaser. You want to make sure that marketing style information or the capability information through the ICN gateway is as accurate and as descriptive as it can be, to make sure that they really understand what you're really good at in your business. Next slide, please, Ben. Cool, excellent. So that address, for those who aren't registered on the ICN gateway, gateway.icn.org.au to register. So from there, you'll need to make sure that you set up your notifications to ensure that you're advised of any prospective opportunities that are coming up. Now, there will be quite a number of opportunities. The project will be, as Ben mentioned, unbundling some of the works packages to ensure that businesses of smaller scale have the opportunity to participate. And we'll talk, as I say, once again, a little bit more about that in just a moment. Next slide, please, Ben. Okay, so the SecureEnergy joint venture will work with us to promote the packages on the ICN gateway. Businesses wishing to be considered for the complete work packages will need to submit an expression of interest to ICN gateway. A brief pre-qual questionnaire will need to be completed to determine the capability to perform works. It will be very important, as I mentioned before, that the company profiles are up to date and that they clearly articulate the capability of the business. Next slide, please, Ben. You'll see here there's a couple of packages that are currently open. You might be able to see there under full scope EOI, there's it says create expression of interest. By clicking on that, that'll take you through the questionnaire, and at the completion of that questionnaire, you'll be submitting your expression of interest to supply to the project. Next slide, please, Ben. Now, a bit of a new concept, what we call the mid-tier supplier panel. SecureEnergy joint venture and work with Ben, has been really focused on helping businesses across the region develop their capacity and their capability to be able to supply to this project, but not just this project, helping them develop and evolve to supply to other projects across the region. So the mid-tier supplier panel, it'll be a resource created for this and other up and coming projects. It gives the opportunity for local companies to access this project, either directly for SecureEnergy or for one of the primary contractors engaged. It seeks to support and promote the skills and capability as a resource pool for companies needing to subcontract parts of their work to local contractors. So next slide, please, Ben. Cool. Now, to apply for the mid-tier supply panel can do so by completing a partial scope against the relevant work package on the ICN gateway. In addition to work on the project, the process will help determine your company's readiness for the project, the geographic area of interest, and will allow the project to identify what assistance could be provided to ensure your company is ready for the project and for other projects that arise in the region. Prospective suppliers will be required to address some of SecureEnergy's pre-qual requirements. These pre-qual requirements include questions relating to financial well-being, safety, quality, industrial relations, and they'll determine where we need to steer you. Once a business meets the pre-qual criteria, it will then be placed on a mid-tier supply panel and will be accessible to primary contractors when seeking subcontractors. Additionally, the company will have access to a central communications portal managed by ICN for information. Now, one of the things that we'll be doing through this process is, we talked about there, identifying where there may be areas of opportunity for improvement. We'll be providing some connections and some guidance as to where you can seek that assistance through organisations such as the BEC, Business Connect, and any other service providers who can help you in terms of contract preparation, etc., etc. All right, next slide, please, Ben. Now, I mentioned before my contact details. This is important. If you need to reach out, if you need to ask a question, please flick those questions through me or contact me directly if there's any assistance I can provide you in relation to the gateway or the project. Any written responses, I'll then seek to get those from the project and respond to you in the event that you can't connect directly with the representatives of the project. But I'm here to help, we're here to help, and we want to make this experience as good as we can, and to ensure that you're given the development opportunities in your business to grow and to access, as I mentioned, not just this, but also other projects that are coming across in the region. And as we probably all know, there's an absolute bounty of these things over the next 10 years in one way, shape or form. So to set ourselves up now with this project and then to exploit those improvements over the next coming decade. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for taking us through that detail and covering it. I think points to note, obviously, we're working very closely with Jeff. We've got a commitment to providing feedback to anyone who goes through an EOI process. Sometimes feedback isn't always easy to do. There's numbers of approvals that we have to go through before we're allowed to release information. But we've made that commitment to working with Jeff. He's going to be with the broader ICN team using that feedback to develop that panel that he mentioned. But also on the SecureEnergy side, we've invested obviously in 3 headcount to actually work in partnership with Jeff. So if you can't get hold of any of us, then Jeff's a great person to speak with, and he's obviously working with us very, very closely. And thank you once again, Jeff, for your support. Okay, well, this third section before we go into the Q&As is really about helping businesses make decisions around going through a pre-qualification, whether pre-qualification is the right choice for your business. And what we always ask with a major project of this size, for people who are not experienced in dealing with a project of this nature, you've got to really make a conscious choice about whether you want to work with a project such as SecureEnergy, because by definition of our size, we have a lot of processes and requirements and standards that we require prospective suppliers to go through. And it's really important that you make that choice about whether your business, it's right for your business to go on that journey. As we mentioned before, there's Jeff covered, the mid-tier panel is specifically designed for us to be able to capture the businesses that might not be able to do all of the scope with us, or might not be necessarily experienced in dealing with us, but will be a place that we can use to not only develop that capability, but to also introduce those businesses to some more experienced contractors who are used to doing this type of work, and then the subsequent opportunity to subcontract into them. So I'd really make a conscious choice about working for SecureEnergy, or working in SecureEnergy's supply chain, or in fact working in the vacuum that SecureEnergy may leave from the suppliers that we do engage with. So calculate the cost of tendering for a major project, and we'll talk about that shortly. But also be easy to find, be online. ICN Gateway is the key place, but never underestimate the fact that a lot of procurement people and industry participation and Indigenous participation advisors use obviously websites. So ensure that you've got a good, strong website and brand presence out there, be easy to find. But these next 3 points are really key messages for us, because this, as we mentioned earlier, you shouldn't be undertaking an EOI or a tendering process with a company such as SecureEnergy if you're not firstly able to be cost competitive, if you're secondly not going to understand or be able to read or interpret the contract, and also understand the nature of our payment terms and contracts. And in all these 3 matters, we would really ask you to seek professional advice. Jeff mentioned earlier, we'll be working with Jeff and the EnergyConnect team around providing advice on these matters, but in matters relating to finance, contracts and estimation, we would really encourage you to seek advice from your accountant, your lawyer and your chartered surveyor before you actually go too far down the tendering process. In saying that, we're not this massive scary beast. Please ask us to clarify, ask us any questions that you may have. There's numbers of channels for us to do that, and sometimes the question, or more often than not, the question that trips us up later on down the track could have been asked easily earlier on in the process. And that's why we've got managers for both local and Indigenous participation, because you can go to them and ask questions for clarifications about the actual process itself. Importantly, please, whatever you do not do anything until you either have a contract and a purchase order in your hand. One of the common things that sometimes pops up with projects of this nature is that people get very enthusiastic. They want to make investments and they want to participate. They want to demonstrate goodwill. They want to move their plant sometimes nearer to the project to show that they're easy to connect with. But all of these matters you shouldn't be doing unless you actually have got a direct instruction from us or a contract or a purchase order in your hand. That's a very important thing. Don't rely on what people ask you necessarily to do from site. Always ensure you've got the paperwork from procurement in your hand. The other point is be easy to administer. One of the best ways to grow your business with a major project or a large project of our nature is actually the administration of your contract. And in that sense, we really would like you to demonstrate high levels of systems compliance, especially around things such as lost time through injuries, things such as the actual contract administration and the invoicing. We've seen more businesses grow their businesses, not just for the work that they're doing as part of their scope, but also because they're easy to partner with, and for our contracts administration team to work with them. And then ultimately, whatever part of our supply chain that you're working with, and whatever activity you're going to go through with a pre-qualification exercise, we've got an important commitment that we've made to supporting Indigenous participation outcomes, and we would expect anyone who's going through a pre-qualification process to also support that and those initiatives as well. So what would you need to do to pre-qualify? Well, it's actually a step in the purchasing process. Part of our requirements is to be working ahead of the procurement program, so we can investigate the market, we can get expressions of interest into the market, and then we can take businesses on a pre-qualification process. And we'll only deal with business who are pre-qualified suppliers, and so there's no way around that. You have to be pre-qualified to get the paperwork you need to proceed. All parties who will be included with any bidders list will be subjected to some form of pre-qualification exercise to determine if the proposed parties have the sufficient capability, capacity and financial strength to undertake the work. Suppliers must have capability that includes health and safety and environment, HSE, quality and environmental management. And as mentioned earlier, as a project that comes under an Australian Industry Participation Plan, we also expect our suppliers and subcontractors to adhere to the standards associated with the Commonwealth Indigenous Participation Plan and the Modern Slavery Act 2018. The key message here, though, as well, is once you go through the pre-qualification, process, it does not guarantee you work. As you go through that process, you'll be assessed. But at the end of the day, you will have to go onto a separate tendering process to actually be awarded the work. So how do you pre-qualify? Well, step one is register on the ICN gateway. Like I said, please take the free option. Register for the relevant package or expressions of interest. If there isn't a package up there for you now, there's a general expression so that you can register your details. And then this is where, from the process point of view, the local industry participation and Indigenous participation team kicks in. So when your ICN gateway package closes, your details will be sent to us to SecureEnergy. SecureEnergy will then assess those applications and will potentially issue you out a pre-qualification form to suppliers who we think have got the relevant goods and services. This is a self-assessment, and in some cases we might require you to complete the form. In some cases we might just ask you to respond to the form. Step 5, suppliers who then choose to respond to us will submit back that pre-qualification form and submit it through. And then we'll categorize that supplier feedback into it will be categorized, and then communications issued back to you, which will identify one of 3 things. Number 1, there might be a gap in your capability or capacity that means that you won't be able to get through pre-qualification with us. It might be, second of all, that we identify that gap, but we can also, in partnership with ICN and EnergyConnect, work out ways that we can help you develop that capability to make you competitive at tender. Or it might be that you're very experienced or able to pass pre-qualification easily, and in which case we would actually submit you through to an online pre-qualification process to get you further into the system. Please note that the pre-qualification forms that are online and will be distributed out next week are also for self-assessment. And any unsolicited pre-qualification submissions done through email, we will not be processing. So it's really important you go back to the EOI process, and that's really important when you play back this video, that if you've got any questions, go to Jeff's contact details and ask him about that. If you get through the pre-qualification process, what can you expect from the tender process? And again, we make the point that tender process can take time and valuable resources. It is a competitive process and you're not guaranteed work. But if your pre-qualification, you pass the pre-qualification process, you will then be put into the tender awarding process. And depending on the size or scope of package, you may be requested to fill out either a request for information, a request for quotation, a qualification, or then go into a negotiation and a contracting process as well. The timing for each award process does differ, and it may take several weeks or months depending on the package in question. You'll go through an evaluation internally, and when you then subsequently awarded the tender, then you'd have a kick-off meeting and we'd move into execution of scope. Like I said, though, from a local industry and Indigenous industry participation process, To get into the tender process, you've got to go through the pre-qualification process, and it's the pre-qualification process that starts off with your EOI registration. There are some resources coming later on today, but online, and you'll be able to find links to the ICN gateway. You'll be able to find an ICN user guide on there. There's a SecureEnergy supplier information guide, and those pre-qualification self-assessment short and long forms will be up there as well. But we'll be distributing all of this with the video and the slide pack later on early next week as part of our broader communication of this supplier engagement series. Final slide. Just putting it up there. There's broader, if you've got any broader questions around the project itself that are not related to local industry participation, there's some contact details that you can use there. And at that point, I think we're going to be opening up for questions.
Hey, Ben. Carmen here. So I've answered quite a few of the questions in the Q&A. There was one I couldn't answer, so I'll throw it out. Will the vegetation removal scope or part of the works be a separate contract direct with SecureEnergy, or is it part of the earth moving contract?
Well, that's a pretty detailed question. It's considered unbundled at the moment, but as we're moving into those construction, we're finalising a lot of the construction methodology in those larger packages of work, and those were the ones that I mentioned will be coming out towards sort of October or November. The contract, the positioning of that particular scope may change, but if you've got a particular question about that, then please get in contact with us. And Carmen, I assume you've got the questioner's name. We can actually get back with some specific details about that.
Yeah, no, I don't. It just comes up as anonymous, so I'm not sure who's asking the questions, but I have supplied Mark Cunningham's and Adrian Whiting's email addresses in the chat. So if you've got any questions that we haven't answered, you're more than welcome to use those two email addresses. And I've also mentioned that on the SecureEnergy webpage, which should go live at the end of the day, there's a supplier information guide on the business page of that webpage, and there are phone numbers there for our procurement team, which is Adrian Whiting for the local content and Barvin, so you can contact them directly on those numbers as well.
Great, thank you. And it's a point worth noting that we're quite early on in the project, and so a lot of these larger packages are still being defined. A lot of the stuff we're working on has either been those large the LSEs, the large scale equipment stuff that we're needing to procure at the moment, and doing sort of focusing on the early works. So there's still sort of, and as we said at the beginning, obviously these packages will change and refine depending on circumstances. So stay in touch with the through the ICN and through the EOI. As Carmen mentioned, there are direct contact details if you've got any specific questions. And if I was to give any advice, then based on our internal schedule, we do a lot of meetings on a Thursday afternoon with the procurement and construction teams. So if you've got any specific questions, Thursday afternoon is sometimes a good time to drop down a reminder email, and then we'll be able to pick up the information for you in those meetings. And although we're very constrained in many cases about the information that we can provide back to the market, because I'm sure you appreciate there's quite a competitive nature to what we do, we'll always endeavour to either come back to you and let you know that we've raised the question, and if there is information that we can provide back to you to make it easier, then we'll happily share that information with you.
We had another question, which I've answered, but I probably want to get your take on it, Ben, because it's pretty much a local sort of question. Will the supply of plant and equipment be preferred to the businesses within the regional LGAs of this project, or can businesses external to the LGAs also be able to provide to the project?
Yes, look, great questions. So under the Australian industry participation requirements, we need to provide full, fair and reasonable opportunity to all businesses across Australia, and Indigenous businesses, of course, to participate in At the end of the day, we've got a client requirement to focus on a particular local area, and we will be doing that. But nonetheless, there is no necessary premium for local, and so the caution I would say for businesses that are within the region is still price competitively. One of the big traps that people fall into is they price a premium based on a postcode, and in that case, I would say to the local businesses, ensure you price competitively for the work. For businesses that are coming into the region, ultimately as local industry participation and industry participation requirements, if we can attract businesses to move into the region, that's part of the broader spreading the broader economic benefit. If you are a business that's tendering from outside of the region, ultimately you will be considered on your competitive merits, but again, we would say that ensure that your pricing is competitive and reflects how you will engage with local resources, and establish any works in the appropriate way in the local region. So yes, the answer to the question is everyone can compete. It is a procurement exercise we're participating in, so everyone needs to be competitive. If you're coming from outside of the region, but you're doing the right thing by working with the partners and the traditional owners and our stakeholders in the region, then that is something that is obviously very important to us. And if you are already in the region, ensure that you remain competitive on price and really demonstrate to us where those local benefits of understanding the haulage routes or where the laydowns are or where the facilities or the labour is really important and should be reflected in your submissions back to us.
Okay, got a few more questions pouring in, Ben. So
okay.
I'll go one at a time.
Right.
Similar, some of them I can't answer. So similar to the vegetation movement question, would waste management for the construction sites be direct to SecureEnergy as there is no information on the ICN gateway about it?
Yep, so industrial waste at this present moment is direct to SecureEnergy, and we anticipate a package on an EOI out for that in the next couple of weeks. Yep.
Okay, hang on, let me just go back. This is I don't know if you've been able to answer this one, Ben. This one's technical. Are the cables being encased in PVC or is it all overhead? If any encased, what are the rough lengths?
Yes, I might refer back to our statement earlier about what we can and can't intelligently comment on. But yes, we can again get that question sent to us directly. We can come back with the answer, but sadly, yes, I'm not the person to give it.
Will there be opportunities to tender for any revegetation that may be needed?
Yes, I mean, it's probably a little bit far down the line in terms of what we're thinking about at the moment in terms of procurement, but yeah, absolutely, that would be a competitive package, and it's one of those packages as well. Any packages that are connected with community, we would also encourage a really strong Indigenous participation level in those packages too.
This is a good one about what the definition of local is. So what physical distance is considered local to the project?
Yep, so we've the local definition currently involves a list of local government areas. I don't have them straight in front of me, unfortunately, but you can get those on our EOIs and in our supplier information guide. So local is effectively replicates the length of the line at the moment, but also the larger industrial hubs that we have around the project region. We're constantly looking to obviously include whatever locals that we can throughout those LGAs and that broader economic region. So yeah, go onto the supplier information guide, go into our EOIs on ICN, and it's defined there by the specific LGAs.
Will the procurement and acquisition of power tooling be chosen through the ICN gateway, or is there a best to email or contact to discuss the supply of this equipment?
Everything's coming through ICN. If there's something that's popping, that if there's a particular concern that or a package that's not relevant, or a business is maybe offering a specific service that they've got a concern a package might not arise, please use the general EOI, register there, and we'll come back to you and give you more information about those specific packages.
Hello, guys.
The general EOI is online. The general EO is online for the length of the project, so that will remain open and we will be checking it.
Sorry, with Jeff, did you want to ask something? Did somebody want to ask a question? I thought I heard someone. Okay, I'll just keep going. Here's a good one. Will the project be self-delivering? I'm presuming that means self-performing, and to what extent? Or is there likely to be contracted packages below SCJV?
Both. So there will be aspects of self-perform, and there will also be subcontracted packages as well. And again, those are part of the strategy decisions that are being made, and we'll be able to keep people up to date with those packages as they come alive.
This is another specific one. Is there any scrap metal collection services required on this project?
It's a great question. I don't want to answer it right now. I think it's in the industrial waste scope, but I'll need to go and check that out. But again, if you've got any specific questions, then just get in touch with us.
How can we engage at a technical level to discuss technical parameters in regards to the requirements around substation equipment, such as earthing, lighting protection, as well as other products such as insulator, dampers, etc.? Yeah,
great question. Look, I think a key point to make is that we've spent quite a bit of time trying to unbundle those manufacturing, mechanical and sort of fabrication type packages as well, because as much as we're want to make a contribution back to the construction and the civil markets and the camp services markets, it's important for us to take that industrial lead on this project to understand more about those packages. We're just going through a process now of starting to unbundle a lot of those packages of work around the substations, etc. And I would expect you to see more of that information coming out over this next month. What I would say to you in that as well is that if there are where we see niche or specialist suppliers, the moment that we can get you engaged with the right technical person internally, we will be doing that. As a team, we're growing rapidly at this present moment in time, so we've got a lot of headcount joining us, and we're just getting them up to speed, and then we'll make the appropriate connection with the appropriate package manager, subject to your ability to get through pre-qualification and so on and so forth. So yes, there will be opportunities to connect technically if you can get through that pre-qualification requirement, and there's a specific requirement for your goods services.
Okay, they're coming in thick and fast now, Ben. This one's a question about construction methodology, which I might be able to answer. So given the distance of the project, will there be single stages to the project, west to east, or will there be simultaneous projects at different locations? So our construction methodology and where we start from is based on EIS approvals. So at the moment, the western section it has nearly completed an EIS kind of approvals round, and we're just waiting on conditions for that. The east is still going through an EIS. So when people have asked where do we start, we will be starting on that western side, around from Boronga through to the South Australian border. When we get all our EIS approvals and we are allowed to start that sort of major construction, we will have multiple work sites across the 700-kilometre expanse from Wagga through to South Australia. So there'll be quite a few camps and quite a few work sites around our works. So I hope that answers that one. So here's a question about the environmental impact studies. I'm just interested in answering those sort of questions because that's not a SecureEnergy function. That function is being delivered by TransGrid. So all I could probably do is direct you to the TransGrid website, and they've got a whole bunch of information on where they're at in regards to the environmental impact statement. Will camps be set up along the line for accommodation for suppliers? Ben, we certainly got camps for our blue-collar workers and white-collar workers, even though we have a strong commitment to engaging local people. I'm not sure that our suppliers are being accommodated at the camps. Ben, can you kind of...
Yeah, look, where we're going to be doing some of the obviously we anticipate large amount of subcontractors. They are factored in to some of the camping arrangements, but obviously as those packages become determined as either subcontract or self-perform, that will provide us a little bit more information. But we are considering in subcontractor accommodation, but again, we would be looking as well around our logistics strategy to how can we also use that local supply network to come into those camp locations as well.
Okay, we are getting some questions in regards to employment and labour agreements, which we're not prepared to answer in this forum because this is about business. We will have further forums around employment and they're the sort of questions that we will answer in those sort of forums. We just don't have the right people in the room to answer those questions correctly for you and we don't want to give you any misinformation. Where else? Where else? Oh, DC Civil, when can we start?
Go register for an ICN. Yeah, we're pretty keen to get started as well. So yeah.
So this was another questions about camps. Will camps be set up along the line for accommodate? Oh, we've done that one for suppliers. I just don't want to miss anybody. Okay, we've got that one. I think we've probably covered a lot of them, majority of them. Is there anyone else that wanted to ask any more questions? I'm just going through the Q&As again just to make sure I haven't missed any.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, hello. It's Paul here from
Hey, Paul.
Demos. Hi. I'm trying to type, but it doesn't seem to be working from my end.
Oh well, so you're on. So just go for it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Hey Ben, Paul here from Indigenous Wiradjuri Demolitions Company.
Brilliant.
When I say Wiradjuri, Ben, that's Wagga, part of Wagga.
No, well.
And yeah, Ben, want to ask you about SecureEnergy, about your Indigenous spend for this project. Have you worked that out?
Yep. Well, and also Ben, I've got my New South Wales demolition and asbestos removal licences, and I've also obtained my South Australian licences too. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Mark, ben. Yes, Mark will take this.
Yeah, no worries. G'day, Paul. How you going, brother?
Good, buddy. How are you, bud?
Sorry, good. Paul, just this is Mark Cunningham. He's our Indigenous Participation Manager.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask that too.
Yeah. So the best thing, yes, probably to all your questions along the way. Best if we took it offline and we had a good chat about it, so that we can work out where you fit in the scheme of things. So my email address has been given out, Paul, but quite happy if you wanted to give me your mobile phone number. Actually, let me just have a look at yours. I might be able to have your.
Oh, I'm happy to give it to you now.
Yeah, beautiful.
I can share that just so it doesn't go public. I can share that with you, Mark, if you just reach out to me. I've got that.
And if you look in the Q&A section, I've written Mark's email in there as well.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, more on a public too. Whether SecureEnergy has worked out your Indigenous spend on the project, on the government project.
I'm happy to take this one, Mark, unless you want to. Paul, just let you know, yes, we're contracted to. We've got an Indigenous target that we've been contracted to deliver of 2.5%. To Indigenous businesses and also training as well. So that's a contracted target that TransGrid's put down through their employer requirements to us. How we're finalising the actual numbers and the packages around that target, I'm sure you appreciate that. Like I said, we're early in the project, and so we're finalising a few of the details, but we have gone through the package list. We have identified packages where we believe from our analysis to date that there will be a strong Indigenous participation opportunity, and Mark will be working specifically on those packages to ensure that the Indigenous businesses have a really good opportunity in those particular scopes. Like I mentioned to you before, obviously, we've got a requirement around manufacturing and skills and development, etc., but we're also focusing on a lot of those packages that are connected with country and connected with community, so we can get opportunities for Indigenous people to work on country again. I can't give you a final number right now, but I can tell you that there's a contracted requirement, there's a targeted percent, And if you stay in touch with Mark, he'll be able to tell you about the kinds of packages that we're focusing on. That being said, it is important to remain competitive. You still need to hit the pre-qualification requirements and obviously all the health and safety requirements that go with competing. But yeah, we've got a specific strategy, and Mark's been on board with the team for about 6 months now and has very much got his feet under the table with regards to the process.
Thanks,
okay.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys. Okay, I've got more questions. There were a few in the chat one, not in the Q&A. So thanks. I think Rachel pointed that out to me. So there's a few questions about primary contacts for substation design, secondary systems and stuff. My recommendation is go to the local industry participation contacts we've given you, go through them, and then they can forward on your request to whoever needs it within the team.
The substation construction manager has got a team around them at the moment. They're just building out that team, and we're working with them very closely. So, yeah.
You got a thumbs up, Ben, and the team for the presentation. Well presented. Looking forward to further information. This is a good question that we probably haven't addressed. Is will there be procurement of equipment from overseas that requires global transport for the project?
Yes, well, there will be procurement from overseas because a lot of the stuff we need in this industry isn't made in Australia at this present moment in time. And I would say, just reiterate, we've done work with the Australian Steel Institute and also the ICN Gateway to really see where we can get those learnings of what could be potentially built onshore in the future. Yes, there is a logistics conversation that's going on at this present moment in time. We're actively involved through that, through Adrian Whiting, who's the local industry participation manager, has got a very strong background in logistics of major projects in remote areas. So that's going to be a real asset for us. We're having those conversations at the sort of high level with the large, more community stakeholders at the moment around some of the impacts of haulage and movement. But I would say that if you stay tuned to ICN or reach out to Adrian directly if you've got a specific question around those, the movement of those imported items, then probably over the next month to 6 weeks, that's when we're really going to be firming up on what the particular strategy is and subsequently obviously defining the scope for the suppliers as well.
We've got one about transmission line steel structure. Is it part of the scope of work which is open for potential suppliers? That was the question.
The transmission steel?
Yep, transmission line steel structure.
So
I think it's the towers is what they're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, look, again, we've done a lot of work to try and find competitive Australian supply around that tower size. Global conditions at the moment are mean that that's coming from overseas. I think the opportunity around the actual construction of the towers themselves may not necessarily be in the raw product, but more in actually the inventory management and how do we actually assemble these large pieces of kit. And so from that sense, the large raw material is coming in from overseas, but the opportunity for Australian suppliers would be then cascaded down through into its componentry, and then how do we actually assemble those sort of rather large pieces of equipment across the length of the line. That's where the real opportunity for Australian industry is.
There's been a few questions about them missing the first part of this. I'll just reiterate that there are 3 presentations. They're all exactly the same. I have put my hand up. I had a few technical issues. This one was supposed to be automatically recorded and it hasn't been, but I'll definitely get it right for the next 2. So those recordings, we might just put one recording on, to be honest, because they're all going to be the same, but the questions may be a little different. We'll put it on our webpage, Secure Energy Joint Venture webpage, so you'll be able to access the recordings. And I believe the Regional Development Australia and ICN will also have access to those recordings, so you can get them from a number of different areas.
And Mildura Regional Development and Business New South Wales as well will be pushing out this information. So
okay, and based on the fact that I sort of messed up a little bit and didn't get this recorded, we'll make sure in the next 2 that some of these questions are also, we go over some of these questions in those ones as well, so we don't miss the opportunity for the responses so people can hear them. So again, my apologies, but we'll get it right for the next one. What other questions have we got? Does each package need to be pre-qualified for separately?
No. So if you pre-qualify for one, so let's say that you come in, you've gone onto the website, you've looked at the self-assessment forms, you've contacted us through ICN, EOI, we've assessed your pre-qualification requirement. If we think that you can pre-qualify, you will then be put into a pre-qualification system called Felix, which will basically create an account for you for the project, and then you'll be pre-qualified for the project.
This is another good question.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Unless, of course, there's some specific technical requirements that differ from scope to scope, which might need an extra level of HSE or technical pre-qualification, but from a generic kind of pre-qualification standard. Once you're in the system, you're in the system.
So this one's a good one, which you might not be able to answer, Ben, but I definitely can. So do businesses need to have any special requirements to work on a TransGrid site, or is this a separate operation? Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, maybe you take that one.
Okay. So any one of our subcontractors who we engage to work on our project, there is like a series of inductions that you have to do, and there is definitely a series of TransGrid training requirements. The subbies, you don't have to worry about that. When you're engaged with us, we will actually have that all organised for you. Things like four-wheel drive training, TransGrid, four-wheel drive training, our induction for the site induction that we'll have. And then TransGrid has some specific safety requirements when working around transmission lines. So the answer is yes, but once you're engaged with us, we'll take care of that for you. What else have we got? Oh, do we know what plant and equipment will be required? That's a big question.
Yes, we do. If you go on to, or in broad terms, we do. If you go on to the ICN, there should be an open EOI there for around plant equipment. Go in, have a look. We specified as much as we can specify at the moment. And then if there's any more to come up, then obviously stay tuned with ICN and wait for those EOIs to pop up.
Yeah,
thank you, Matt. Oh, sorry.
That package, sorry, Carmen, that package will be closing at the end of September. So just make sure that any EOI is submitted prior to that date.
Thanks, Jeff.
Matt Hayes sends a big thank you to us for an informative session. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming. And then, Ben, based on what you said about the steel fabrication, is there any local steel fabrication opportunities for the project at all?
Yeah, we hope so, and we're unbundling that at the moment. Like I said, we've it's a big focus for this particular project because it has got the additional level of industrial responsibility with a lot of this new technology coming into Australia. That it is a focus of us, and yes, we will be targeting packages. We've got an internal target that we've set around that manufacturing, fabrication, etc. But we've still got some of the construction methodology to decide on that actually will inform that. But then that's the process that Adrian Whiting, the local industry participation manager, will be actively involved in this month with the substation teams. And also we've categorised within our strategy a specific category for packages that can be manufactured or fabricated locally.
There was a question that I answered, but maybe other people would like to know about it. Will there be a requirement for FIFO to and from camps? The answer is yes, but it's FIFO and DIDO, so it's not just FIFO. And obviously we have that commitment to get as many local workers as we can without putting any pressure on the local government areas for employment. So we don't want to take, you know, all their employees for our project. So there's a fine balance there, but the answer is yes. Okay, what else have I got here? Someone else is going. Tony from Solar Train, great presentation, guys. Thanks. I think I've answered most of the questions. This last call, does anybody else have any other questions, burning questions you want answered?
Well,
don't think anything's coming through.
If not, then we've got another session this evening and another session tomorrow. So if there's something you want to ruminate on and come back in and ask the questions, then there's another 2 opportunities. But with that, Carmen, I might call proceedings to a halt. And thank you.
Big thank you. Big turnout. We had over 100 attendees. Great.
Thank you so much indeed. Really appreciate you coming along. Thank you to Jeff from ICN and obviously Edwina from RDA. Again, we emphasise the partners that we put up at the beginning. Regional Development Australia, Murray, Regional Development Australia, Riverina, Mildura Regional Development, Chamber Business New South Wales, and of course ICN are key partners for us. So stay tuned with them to find out. Well, basically they'll be getting the good oil. So stay tuned for them. We'll be putting out the packages through ICN, and then any other information will come through those partners. So support them and sign up to find out more. Okay. All right.
Ciao, everyone.
Thanks,
Have
Ben.
a great day.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.